My friend borrowed my dream, so I built a better one. Have you ever watched someone smile to your face while quietly taking the one thing you've spent years building? Because I have. And the worst part? I helped him do it. My name is Ethan. I'm 32 now, and I own a software company that serves thousands of small businesses across America. People usually assume I got lucky. They see the office, the employees, the interviews, the success. What they don't see is the friend who stole my dream before I ever had the chance to build it. This happened 8 years ago. Back then, I was just another broke guy living in a tiny apartment outside Austin, Texas. The apartment was so small that my bed touched one wall while my desk touched the other. My kitchen had exactly 2 working burners. The air conditioner sounded like it wanted to die every summer. But none of that bothered me, because every single night after work, I came home with one goal: build something that mattered. I worked a boring IT support job during the day. People called because they forgot passwords. Their printers stopped working. Their Wi-Fi disappeared. 8 hours of solving everyone else's problems. Then, I'd come home and spend another 6 building my own future. I had an idea. A software platform that helped local service businesses automate appointments, invoices, customer reminders, and reviews without paying thousands every month. Simple, affordable, made for the businesses that bigger tech companies ignored. Plumbers, electricians, cleaning companies, landscapers, family-owned repair shops. I believed they deserved better tools. Maybe I believed in that dream a little too much. Because dreams have a dangerous habit. They make you trust people you shouldn't. That's where Ryan comes in. Ryan and I had been best friends since freshman year of college. He was outgoing, funny, the kind of guy who could walk into any room and leave with 5 new friends. I was the opposite. Quiet, focused, the guy hiding behind a laptop while Ryan works the room. People always joke that we were the perfect team. Ryan could sell anything, I could build anything. Together, we joked we'd become millionaires before 40. Looking back, that joke wasn't funny at all. Ryan started visiting my apartment almost every weekend. He'd bring pizza, sometimes beer. We'd sit at my tiny kitchen table while I showed him the latest version of my software. "What do you think?" I'd ask. He always looked impressed. "Dude, this is incredible. You seriously built this yourself? People are gonna love this." Every time he said that, I worked even harder. Sometimes he'd throw out ideas. "You should make scheduling easier. What if customers got text reminders? Can businesses customize invoices?" Some suggestions were actually good. Most weren't. But I appreciated that he cared. At least, I thought he cared. One Friday night, everything changed. Ryan showed up looking unusually serious. "I've got good news." I smiled. "What happened?" "My uncle wants to invest." I nearly dropped my coffee. "What?" "He sold his construction company last year. He's looking for startup opportunities." I couldn't believe it. For 3 years I'd been rejected by investors. Banks laughed at me. Nobody wanted to fund software built by some unknown guy living in a tiny apartment. Ryan leaned forward. "I showed him your idea." For a second, that sentence didn't register. "You what?" "I only showed him the demo. I knew you'd be okay with it." He loved it. I should have been angry. Instead, I felt excited. That's how much I trusted him. "When can I meet him?" Ryan hesitated, then smiled. "Soon." That meeting never happened. Every time I asked, something came up. His uncle was traveling, busy, out of town, next month, next week, soon, always soon. Ryan suddenly quit his job. I congratulated him. "What happened?" I asked. He grinned. "I've got an opportunity." I asked, "What kind?" "I can't really talk about it yet." That answer felt strange. But again, he was my best friend. I didn't push. 2 weeks later, Ryan stopped answering my calls. He ignored my texts. He canceled dinner plans. He always had an excuse. Busy. Meetings. travel, deadlines. The friendship we'd built over 12 years suddenly felt like it had an expiration date. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was grabbing coffee before work when I noticed a local business magazine sitting near the register. One headline caught my eye. Austin startup raises $2 million to revolutionize small business software. I smiled. I loved reading startup stories until I saw the photo. Ryan, standing in front of a giant company logo, smiling, wearing an expensive suit I'd never seen before. My stomach tightened. I picked up the magazine. The article explained everything. A new software company, helping plumbers, electricians, cleaning services, family-owned businesses, automating appointments, invoices, customer reminders, review management. Every feature, every promise, every word sounded painfully familiar. Too familiar. Then I reached the final paragraph. Ryan was quoted saying, "I've been working on this vision for years. Years." I couldn't breathe. I read that sentence again and again. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the magazine. It wasn't just my idea. It wasn't just my software. It wasn't just my dream. He had stolen my story. And somehow, the entire world believed it belonged to him. I walked out of that coffee shop without buying anything, sat in my car, and stared at the dashboard for nearly an hour. One question kept repeating in my head. How long had my best friend been planning to replace me? I had no idea. The answer was about to hurt even more. I barely slept that night. The magazine sat on my kitchen table like it was mocking me. Every time I looked at Ryan's smiling face, I felt sick. I kept asking myself the same question. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But deep down, I already knew the truth. The next morning I skipped work and drove straight to Ryan's new office. It was downtown, glass walls, modern furniture, a huge company logo hanging behind the reception desk. Everything looked expensive. Everything looked familiar. The receptionist smiled politely. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Ryan. Do you have an appointment?" "No." She typed something on her keyboard before giving me an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter isn't available. Tell him Ethan is here." Her expression changed for just a second. She clearly recognized my name. She picked up the phone, spoke quietly, hung up. "I'm sorry, sir. He said he's in a meeting." I looked past her, through the glass hallway, and there he was, Ryan, standing with two investors, laughing. He wasn't in a meeting. He was looking directly at me. Our eyes met. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then, he turned around and walked away. That hurt more than I expected. Not because he ignored me, because he made sure I saw him do it. A week later I finally received a message. Not an apology, not an explanation. Just one sentence. "Let's meet. I'll explain everything." We met at the same sports bar we'd been visiting since college. It felt strange. The same booths, the same TVs, the same smell of buffalo wings. Was already dead. Ryan walked in wearing a designer watch I knew he couldn't afford a few months ago. He smiled like nothing had happened. "Ethan," I didn't smile back. "You stole it." He sighed. "It's more complicated than that." "No, it isn't. You stole my idea, my software, my business, my future." People at nearby tables started looking over. Ryan leaned closer. "You weren't going to launch it." I stared at him. "What?" "You spent 3 years perfecting it. You were always waiting. One more feature, one more update, one more improvement. You would have spent another 5 years doing the same thing." His words hit harder than I wanted to admit, because there was a tiny piece of truth hiding inside his lie. I was a perfectionist, but that didn't make what he did right. "So your solution," I asked quietly, "was to steal it?" "I didn't steal it. I improved it." I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. "You copied my prototype. You copied my business model. You even copied my investor presentation." Ryan didn't deny it. Instead, he shrugged. "You built the engine. I built the company." Then he said something I'll never forget. "The better businessman won." Silence. That sentence echoed in my head for days. Not because I believed him, because I realized he actually believed himself. I hope it was worth it. It was. I nodded once, then walked away. That was the last conversation we ever had. For the next month, everything fell apart. I couldn't focus at work. I stopped writing code. I ignored my friends. I stopped answering my parents' calls. Every time I opened my laptop, I saw Ryan's company instead. The software I'd spent years creating now belonged to someone else. Or at least, that's what it felt like. One Friday evening, I did something I almost regret. I opened the project folder, selected every file, hovered over the delete button. 3 years of work. Gone forever. My finger froze. Then my phone rang. It was my older sister, Emma. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. She listened while I spent nearly an hour telling her everything. When I finally finished, she stayed quiet. Then she asked one question. "Ethan, who actually wrote the code?" "I did." "Who understands every line?" "I do." "Who knows why every feature exists?" "Me." "And who copied who?" I didn't answer. She did. "He borrowed your destination. He can never borrow your mind." That sentence changed everything. For the first time in weeks, I stopped thinking about what I'd lost and started thinking about what I still had. Knowledge, experience, mistakes, vision. None of those could be stolen. The next morning, I reopened the project, but not to continue it, to bury it. I archived every file, closed the folder, created a brand new project. Blank screen, blank future, blank name. This time, I made one promise to myself. I wasn't building software, I was solving problems. The software would simply be the tool. Instead of trying to compete with Ryan's company, I spent weeks talking to real business owners, roofers, mechanics, pet groomers, independent dentists, restaurant owners, coffee shop managers. I asked one question. If you could magically fix one thing in your business tomorrow, what would it be? Almost nobody mentioned scheduling. Very few cared about invoices. They complained about something I'd completely overlooked. Losing customers after the first visit. Nobody was helping small businesses keep loyal customers. Everyone focused on getting new clients. Almost nobody helped them keep the ones they already had. That's when everything clicked. I wasn't going to build a better version of Ryan's company. I was going to build something he never imagined. Not because I wanted revenge, because I finally understood the market better than he did. Funny enough, getting betrayed forced me to stop falling in love with my own idea and start listening to other people's problems. For the first time in years, I wasn't rebuilding my dream. I was building something much bigger. And I had no idea Ryan's company was already beginning to crack from the inside. People love to say that revenge changes you. Maybe it does. But somewhere along the way, I stopped chasing revenge. I started chasing excellence. And that made all the difference. The first year wasn't glamorous. There were no investors, no fancy office, no viral announcements on LinkedIn. It was just me, working from the same tiny apartment where everything had started. Only this time, I wasn't trying to build the perfect product. Every Monday I called customers. Every Tuesday I fixed what they hated. Every Wednesday I released updates. Every Thursday I visited local businesses. Every Friday I asked one simple question. What can I do better? I listened. 6 months later, I had 20 paying customers. Then 50. Then 100. Every new customer came from a referral. No expensive advertising, no flashy marketing. Just people telling other people, you should try Ethan's platform. They actually listen. That became our biggest advantage. Meanwhile, Ryan's company was everywhere. Podcasts, business magazines, tech conferences. He was becoming one of Austin's rising startup stars. At least, that's what it looked like from the outside. Then one afternoon, an old coworker sent me a news article. Ryan's company had laid off nearly a third of its employees. The headline blamed market conditions. But someone I knew inside the company told me the real story. Customers were leaving, fast. The software looked beautiful. Investors loved the presentations. But actual business owners felt ignored. Feature requests disappeared. Support tickets went unanswered. Ryan kept building what impressed investors. I kept building what helped customers. One strategy won headlines. The other won loyalty. 3 years passed. My company quietly expanded into 12 states, then 22, then all 50. We never became the loudest company. We became the most trusted. That's the difference. One Friday morning, my assistant walked into my office. "You've been invited to speak at the National Small Business Innovation Summit." I smiled. "Sounds interesting." Then she added, "Ryan Carter is speaking too." I hadn't heard his name in almost 3 years. I simply nodded. Okay. No anger, no excitement, just okay. Because by then, he no longer lived rent-free in my mind. The conference was held in Chicago. Hundreds of founders, investors, journalists, business owners. Ryan spoke before me. His presentation was polished, confident, professional. The audience applauded politely. Then it was my turn. I didn't use flashy slides. I didn't talk about disruption. I didn't mention billion-dollar valuations. Instead, I told stories. I talked about Maria, who owned a small cleaning company and doubled her repeat customers. I talked about James, a plumber who finally stopped missing appointments because our system worked the way he worked. I talked about real people, not numbers. When I finished, the audience stood up, a standing ovation, not because I was the smartest person in the room, because people could tell I actually cared. After the event, dozens of attendees came over to shake my hand. As the crowd slowly disappeared, I noticed Ryan standing near the exit. Older, more tired, less confident than I remembered. We just looked at each other. Then, he walked over. "I guess you won." I smiled politely. I wasn't competing. He looked down. "I owe you an apology." Those were the words I'd imagined hearing for years. Strangely, they didn't feel satisfying anymore. "I was jealous," he admitted. "You always built things I couldn't. I thought if I took your idea, I'd become you." He laughed quietly. "Turns out, I only borrowed your blueprint." He looked me in the eyes. "You built another one." For the first time since all of this started, I believed he was telling the truth. Not because he wanted forgiveness, because he finally understood. I shook his hand. "I hope you figure out what's next." That was it. No dramatic speech, no public humiliation, no shouting. Sometimes, silence is the loudest ending. A few months later, one of Ryan's former investors contacted me. He wanted to invest in my company. I thanked him, then politely declined. He seemed surprised. "You don't need the money?" I smiled. "I do. But I don't need partners who only recognize value after someone else proves it." There was a long pause. Then he nodded. "I understand." Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I slept well that night. A few weeks after that, I received an unexpected package. Inside was an old notebook. Mine. The notebook I had filled with sketches, ideas, and business plans years earlier. Ryan had kept it all this time. There was a handwritten note tucked inside. It simply said, "I should have believed in my own dream instead of stealing yours. Thank you for teaching me that success borrowed from someone else never feels like success." No signature. None was needed. I closed the notebook, placed it back on my shelf, and never opened it again. Because those pages belonged to the person I used to be, not the person I'd become. Looking back now, people often ask me the secret behind my company's success. They expect me to mention strategy, technology, marketing, timing. But the truth is much simpler. The best thing that ever happened to me was losing the dream I thought I wanted, because it forced me to build the one I was actually meant to create. Ryan borrowed an idea. He borrowed a product. He even borrowed a head start. But there was one thing he could never borrow: the ability to start over. Because that was always mine. And if you're listening to this while someone else seems to be living the life you imagined for yourself, remember this. People can copy your work. They can steal your opportunity. They can even take credit for your ideas. But they can never steal the person capable of creating them. And sooner or later, that difference changes everything. The dream wasn't the real asset. The dreamer was.